here, I got a hypothetical question for you guys. We're in election season, and I started thinking about it. Like, if instead of a single person that America is voting for, or like a ticket, like president and vice president, imagine if you had companies to pick from, like companies that are in completely different industries, and you were electing a company to run the country. Who would you vote for? And this could be from any industry. Like, hey, let me clarify. So I thought about this. I thought about this the other day, and I was like, okay, there's nothing more American than Costco, right? Like a president that gives you everything in bulk, healthcare, infrastructure, all sold by the pallet. Like, just imagine like free samples of democracy at every corner. Like, who would you guys vote for?
If we're going extreme hypothetical, I'm gonna go extreme. This is all hypothetical, right? I'm gonna go Disney. Look, it'll be fun, right? You see Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck being president and vice president. Like Donald Duck is like loyal, like very loyal. Mickey Mouse is very like I can rule the world and create anything and build everything. That's American dream, right? Build everything, be a visionary. You got the Avengers writing like foreign policy. The Avengers, whatever that was called in the movie, and then you got Star Wars leading like Space Force. Like, come on, man! Like, who else could get ahead of it? I mean, if we're going magical, we're going magical, right? Air Force One is magic carpet, and you gotta have Timon and Pumbaa be chief of staff. Like that's non-negotiable. It's gotta be Hakuna Matata all the way. That's what I'm going for.
It will, and you see that, right? Like Mickey Mouse, you could totally see him as president. He would be this likable guy. Samir, who would you vote for?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind I can debate is practically already our leader of our country, Amazon. I switched to Amazon. 2 days shipping on all tax returns. Can you imagine that? That'd be so quick, so easy to shop for, right? When you know what you're going to do with tax returns. Let's see, what do you got? Press secretary, Alexa, easy. The all-centered hub of knowledge of everything that you need to know. You can just ask her all of her questions. And then, elected officials could get customer reviews, which I think needs to happen already by now at this point. Like Prime Video is going to play a role, right? They're going to take over PBS and C-SPAN. You're now going to be on Prime Video. Prime trucks already deliver everything that we ever want to our front door. So might as well add in the postal service and add in mail to that and give them that one extra job to do. And then the White House going to be rebranded to the Prime House. Let's eliminate all the ancient history of the White House and everything that is done. But it's all into Prime House, Amazon. You can almost already say they already run this country.
They do. And it really money's controlling so many things in U.S. politics. And just like if all other rules applied, like they only get 2 terms and everything, I could actually see certain companies bidding for this and then asking the American public to vote, right? So this could be an interesting concept if we ever privatize everything. But let's get to the show, guys.
Men go mad.
Who's gone mad?
Madmen.
You're mad.
The man's mad.
Madmen.
I'm mad.
All right. So Iceland recently had a big cucumber shortage, and TikTok is to blame. So TikTok creator Logan M has created a worldwide obsession with cucumber salads. He's got all sorts of beauty and health brands coming for his endorsement now and to sponsor him. And then we also saw the recent rise of Jules LeBron. She's a trans creator who coined the phrase very demure, very mindful, which caused chaos over the internet. Everyone was using her voice and her sound for all sorts of videos. And it got me thinking, why do certain trends hit and certain trends don't? There's clearly like timing is everything, right? But the follow-up question is that like, what are the underlying sentiments that you think caused the trend to hit? So who wants to take it first?
Look, I'll go in, right? I don't know if it's I think a lot of trends have a timing thing. It's very specific to a time that either is like right moment, right time. I'll go back. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to 2015. Anybody remember that stupid blue dress argument? The gold and white dress and the blue and black dress. Like people couldn't figure out what it was. And it was viral. Like it was hashtag the dress was trending on every channel. And like it was literally like the most stupidest debate that was so serious that was on TV. Politicians were at it. Companies were at it. People were selling stuff off of this thing. And you could buy things on Amazon of like, hey, look, this is the blue one, this is the gold one. Like, it was stupid, but my point to that statement is that there was a lot of other things happening in 2015. A lot of global issues were happening, social issues were happening in 2015, and this was everybody's distraction, right? And that's sometimes what it takes is like, hey, look, somebody needs a distraction from everything else that is serious and good. And sometimes these trends hit, and even right now you can think about that, right? Like if you look at this cucumber trend, by the way, the cucumber trend is like, I've tried it, it's nasty, I don't like it, personal opinion. And then the very demure, very mindful thing, like it's a mix, right? It's a very social. Again, I still don't know what it means, but what it looks like to me is that it's a very social plus, personality fun thing, right? It's a mix of both. That's why it's trending, to distract us from what's really happening.
Yeah, the distraction piece is, I think, really interesting. I think I feel like the content itself is not what is going viral or what makes it viral. It's not the content; it's people that are making these things go viral, right? So I think I wanted to look at it from what is it about this particular content that is making people want to be engaged or people want to share it. And I genuinely believe that it's because everybody has a little bit of this kind of sensitivity inside of us around FOMO. None of us want to be excluded from what is becoming popular. So then we participate, we engage, we reshare, we copy, we use this vernacular because we want to feel like we are into the times, right? Like we don't want to feel left out. And I think that is what drives a lot of what becomes viral and trendy. A lot of brands really get that confused with content, right? Content itself is not what is making something viral. It is not the piece of art that is created, this piece of content. It is how people take it. It is how people do something with it. If that's participating, a challenge. I think even like the one that comes to mind is the ice bucket challenge, right? A prime example of like the human behavior that is FOMO is like you seeing all of these people in your inner and outer circles engaged in this ice bucket challenge, which was a very healthy, positive kind of movement. And people didn't want to feel left out. And I know that this is how people felt because they're waiting to be nominated for it, right? That's how the whole system works, that you do it and you would nominate 3, 4, 5 people to do it. And people were like anxiously waiting their turn for someone to nominate them. And then they did it. And then now they got to be a part of it. And I think that tends to be kind of an overarching theme for everything that goes viral. I think Sling, you're right on around timing and how important that is. I think it's, the cultural side of things, right? Successful brands and influencers have that uncanny ability to tap into culture and that they're not creating these trends out of thin air. They are riding these waves of existing sentiment and amplifying them. And this is not like a one-hit wonder thing. Like these creators are constantly posting, right? It's all about consistency and frequency. And they're waiting for that one big thing to hit. And then once that hits, they optimize and learn from there. I think that we've seen this happen a lot where one thing goes viral and people start to kind of try to capitalize on that one viral moment, and then they fail to maintain relevance and then they die off as a creator. That happens all the time in this space. But the right influencers, the right brands who are creating trendy viral content are doing this very strategically. Like, this isn't just a guessing game. These are very purposeful, strategic, thoughtful, intentful pieces of content that's being put out there with the intent of trying to create some sort of FOMO activity, to get people feeling bad that they don't know about this or to feel absent from participating from it. And I think that has a big role into saying what exactly is trending and what goes viral.
Okay, so the FOMO thing I get, right? But I still I try to sometimes wonder is why certain things hit. Like we talked about sentiment, yes, but like, okay, let's break down the cucumber salad and Jules LeBron. So I understand why Jules LeBron is going viral, and maybe she's losing her moment now, but what caused her to go viral is this underlying sentiment of retreating back to traditional femininity, but with a progressive twist, right? So she's like that perfect cocktail of both. So Jules LeBron is a trans creator, and then there's just a growing support for. There's a growth in supporting LGBTQI voices online. But then you see this trans creator talking about carrying yourself as a traditional feminine being, right? So we see the trend of like the traditional #tradwife and all the things, but there's like the rise of the preppy girl again. Like so many of those types of like fashion is starting to show that and everything. Love Shack Fancies is huge on that. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, it's Jules LeBron is that perfect cocktail. And there's just this underlying sentiment of you can be a traditional woman, but have progressive ideals. Then let's talk about Logan. So Logan may have started a movement for a couple reasons. And I think there's a growing frustration with grocery store prices, delivery apps, price gouging you and stuff. So he started the sensation of a DIY cucumber salad. And legit, I don't know about you, Salim, you're a chef in your own right. I love my cucumber salads. I eat them every day now because I'm not even joking. Like, money aside, it's less than $3. I've done the math. It's delicious. It's healthy. It's light. I feel great if I eat it for dinner every night. Like, I've been doing it, and I could see why it works for the average American because or in this case, average Icelander. Like, there's something about it that just like it's stuck for a certain reason. And so the underlying sentiment is maybe the economic struggles, like people are trying to look for a cheaper way to eat maybe, and still have tasty and healthy food. So I don't know. I mean, I think this is a really interesting topic because we should probably get an expert in on this, on how they really think about trends, and maybe it's a creator or someone. But yeah, let's go on to the next topic. So switching gears a little bit, have you guys thought about how jobs have changed? I felt like when we were growing up, we'd see a lot of the dads wearing electrician outfits, or, you'd see their hands dirty from working on cars as mechanics and things like that. And those same people would be supporting a family of 6, and the wife wouldn't have to work, and they were making good money. So there was a recent Business Insider article that talked about how there's a shortage of people going into boring jobs, particularly about accounting. But I started to do some more research, and I started thinking about, I'm like, how many people do we hear about going into other like blue collar jobs, or, these vocational jobs that you used to see a lot of dads be in? So truck drivers can easily make $8,000 to $10,000 a week just hotshotting, and you don't even have to have a full license. Like, you could do there's like a partial license and a full license. You can make still $8,000 to $10,000 a week just hotshotting. And here's the crazy statistic about it. So the American Trucking Association said there was a shortage of 80,000 drivers in 2021. And by 2030, they're expecting that to be 160,000 drivers. Electricians and plumbers, they can easily make over 100,000 a year. Yet we don't really see people going into the profession of becoming an electrician or becoming a plumber. So I have a theory on this, and I want to see if this kind of leads into what I want to ask you guys. I think because of the rise of dating apps, us having to put our profession on Facebook and LinkedIn, and this, like, we have to be this public person all the time now. I think that is what's causing a lot of people to avoid these jobs, even though they can make really good money. So people go for a more interesting looking job or interesting sounding job, knowing that it makes less money. So my question to you guys is, and think of this as a mini idea lab, how do we make these jobs, which are very important to society, more appealing and sexier?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer, because these jobs that are quote unquote boring or sexy, they haven't really changed in a very long time, right? They are what they are. They have been sort of this, what I'd call kind of safer routes to go, because there's going to be a demand for this. They're practically recession proof, and there's relatively low barrier to entry when you think about like the path to getting there, right? A lot of it requires maybe some sort of trade school, accountant, maybe a little bit longer work, but the stability of an accountant is practically unmatched to any other field. But I wanted to get into like why does Gen Z tend to see jobs so differently than us millennials or even like Gen X, right? We millennials have made it a point to make work a focal point of our personality. And it's largely that it's become our identity. What we do for work is part of our identity. But Gen Z has a different relationship with work. You say Gen Z isn't taking these unsexy jobs like plumbers and accountants because they lack sex appeal. I would say that they're not taking those jobs because they don't find the work meaningful. They value the ability to make a positive impact. It's not that they may exclude traditional professions. They just might be more interested in how a job contributes to society or aligns more with their values. And the other reason why I think Gen Z is not is because they're not committing their lives to just one career. They have diverse career interests. Their interests are constantly changing. And that makes it really rare to see someone in this new generation, these younger people, commit 5 years to business school and become an accountant, or Gen Z who just has different priorities in their life and different expectations from work compared to previous generations. And they have such a complex mix of factors that are influencing their job choice. The older generations like ours, we just have less criteria, right? Unsexy jobs don't really offer much more than decent pay and stability. And I think even the examples that you gave, the way that you described those was purely around those factors, right? Decent pay and stability. The demand is there and the pay is good. Why don't you want this job? But I think that's what older generations tend to care about. I think newer generations have a lot more factors into their career choices, and that it's not just about the money. And I think pretty much any young person will tell you that, and then any older person will tell you, what do you mean? Are you dumb? Of course you're dumb. And I think that's where we see a clash in differences in how we see jobs. And I think, this is kind of what you're heading to, like, what is the difference between a job and a career with this new generation? Career is like you've established this lane for you to play in and engage in your work and your profession. This is what you have chosen. And just the Gen Z young people are just not making that choice. They'd rather have jobs than pick a career. And I think that's what's kind of like creating this little like influx of where they want to go, what they want to do. I do think that what people think about the work matters to them. But I actually think it matters more to older people, that like we make it more of a point to make our job our identity. I don't think younger people are doing that. I think younger people may not care as much about what they're called or what people think about what they do for work than a lot of us do. So that would be my take on it.
Look, I definitely think society is to blame, right? And I think it's not, and yes, part of it is social media and all the Facebook profile, and I don't think that's the whole problem. I think it really is just, you're built this way. Like you start a school, and in no way you go from elementary all the way to college do we talk about, hey, you should do this because it's a six-figure job, right? You talk about everything else as a six-figure job, which may not be. Marketing, we're all in marketing. How many of us have gotten when was the last time anybody got out of college who got a six-figure job in marketing? Shit, they're still getting hired. Like, I think I'm on the advisory board for University of Houston. The average hire rate is like $45,000. And you could easily do less work, less understanding, and get into this job. The problem is that we as a society have not branded, marketed, or advertised the idea that, hey, look, this is a job, because nobody's saying you go do this. I don't think it's the factor of, hey, people don't want to do this. I think it's the factor of people don't know it exists, or that it is a profitable, right? I think the articles will help. I think there was a whole different article about truck drivers and how women are getting into truck drivers because they are seeing that as a six-figure job, right? I think overall, it needs to be just the idea of like public education, and less public education, but more of this university education is the challenge, right? Because people go to these these universities and colleges, pay these ungodly amounts of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to college, and they end up way below where they need to be or where the expectations are. And then you could also go just to a trade school and make way more money. And, it's the people that make real good money, the guys that are doing unsexy jobs. I mean, we were talking about Amazon earlier, and Jeff Bezos, the job wasn't sexy. Hey, I'm going to go sell books online. I'm going to go deliver packages. I'm going to become a Walmart. That wasn't a sexy job at the beginning, but it is sexy now, right? It's just his way of turning it around. So I think overall, in general, we just need to educate people about, hey, look, there's other options, right? Like all of us, I bet you have a 529 for your kids to go to college. And none of your colleges are going to teach them that, hey, this is a six-figure job on the side, right? I think overall, it just needs to change, and people just need to understand that there's more options out there, and you don't always need college education for that. Go ahead.
So Salim, you're saying exactly what Samir is kind of refuting about me, was that we are making this argument of stability, right? But my question is, how do we use the needs of society today, whether it's meaning, having meaning in your job or feeling passion for your job? How do we apply that to this ikigai concept of being good at something, being paid for it, and having meaning in it? That perfect mixture so that people can actually pay for their lives. I mean, the facts state that women own more property now than men in their 20s. Men don't have money to pay for dates. Men are far more are far more in debt than ever before. And it's to give this, and I truly believe this. I think men have this weird expectation to look like they have figured it out. Like men have to look the part, that they are interesting, that they have figured it out. Like, I mean, there's people that go, I hear this from legit, like these are real stories where guys who are on dating apps, if they don't seem interesting enough from their profile, from what they've answered, what they do. I mean, even, of course, we know about the height thing. If it doesn't start with a 6, people don't even bother. Like, men have to have it all. And then, so how do we say that these jobs, which are traditionally done by men, and we all know that, we don't need to have that discussion. How do we say, hey, it's okay and it's actually appealing? Like, if we were told as marketers, your job is to make plumbing look sexy, and that we want to have more plumbers in America, right? What would you do? That's the question. So, I mean, you guys do this, right, for a living. You guys think about this. Samir, how would you build passion for plumbing?
It's hard. I don't have a clear answer to that, right? Because I think the insight that you tapped into was that people are ashamed of being called plumbers, but they don't want to be called plumber. I would say that being a plumber is not who you are. And I think that's what these younger people are factoring in. It's driving their choice of what jobs you're going to pursue, that they don't see the stability or money that comes in from that can elevate their quality of life. They just don't necessarily care that it can. They know that there's better options out there when it comes to stability and money, but they're not making those choices. And I think that is like the big debate of like what is going to take to get these younger people more motivated to establish themselves, right? What is going to take for them to prioritize this? Because like you said, like they're trending downward, right? Like there is like the obviously like the student loan debate is driving a huge wedge into their ability to stand up on their own feet. They're not buying homes as much because that's expensive. There's more young people living with their parents than there ever has been. Like all of these things are dragging this next generation down and slowing them from being established and self-sufficient. But the problem is that they don't want to get out of it. I don't think that there is like a true motivation the way it has been for us, our generation or the generation older than us, who have this like drive to be self-sufficient, to make something of themselves, to stand up on their own 2 feet and be proud of the work that they're doing, regardless of what it is. I think that's the fundamental issue that is like making it really hard for these jobs to be so appealing to them. And it's not, you can't just rely on stability and money anymore. And I don't know what that could be. For something like plumber, I think there is, maybe a space around building a community around the kind of this like exclusive club of community of plumbers, that kind of being able to share what they do and thinking about how technology can help elevate their jobs and start learning from each other. That's not something we've seen in that space, right? Plumbers got their way. It's probably the way that they've been doing it for decades, and then they just go do this stuff, right? But maybe having a different take in that particular world is about how do we make our jobs easier, not how do we just go do it, right? Like, let's just find more people, put our phone numbers out there and make people call us. Like, I think if they were like this younger generation getting to that space, would just approach that whole field so differently. And I think that has to happen in order for people to gravitate towards that job. And I think now the identity of plumber is just too old school.
Yeah, and I think like, look, let's play this game, right? So let's say that we go in and somebody says, hey, look, I've got a budget for you to go make plumber sexy, right? And you rebrand it, right? I think you got to rebrand the thing, right? Call it like a hydro technician, call it something else, right? Hey, I'm a hydro technician and I'm whatever, I don't know the name, but let's rebrand it, right? Let's call it hydro technician, let's call it that. If we want to talk about the money you can make, let's highlight those influencers, right? Let's say, hey, look, this guy drives a Benz, he's got a nice house, and this is his lifestyle. And you ask him, what does he do? Well, he's a plumber, or he's a hydro technician, whatever it is. I think there's things you could do to make this thing, right? I think there's also the idea of how do you do it with technology, and what is the evolution of that plot, right? Like, hey, look, a plumber, in my head, if I was 5 years ago and say, hey, I need a plumber, it's because something got stuck in a drain. However, that's not what a plumber does. Plumber's got more things to do, right? Rebuilding a bathroom, rebuilding a shower, redoing like a sink or a kitchen area, like making it very cool looking, very modern looking. That's also a plumber's job, right? Those are all things that he could do as a plumber and that we hire them for. It's those things that need to be highlighted, and I think talk about, hey, look, let's go show this house, and let's say, oh, by the way, my name is John, I'm the plumber that did this work. I think there's an industry there. I think somebody's got to fund this industry and say, hey, look, we need this. America needs this. Go build it. Go rebrand it. Go market it, and say, hey, look, these are the lifestyles. So I think there's in all of these jobs, truck driving. At some point, Tesla's going to come out with the semi truck, this auto, self-driving and stuff, and all of that needs a monitor, right? I think those are things that will come out. Funny enough, randomly enough, maybe I should say, maybe I shouldn't say it. But, what comes to me is all these weird porn movie ideas that come out, like, hey, this is a plumber, this is a truck driver doing this.
Oh, gosh.
like, I've heard these stories, right? So it's like, you could do this, right? So, but, like, it's also, like, there's other things that you could do. Send them to event now. But I think there's got to be a need for this, and there's got to be some sort of saying, hey, look, there's an evolution to this business, right? Because every business has to evolve. If it's the same shit over and over again, it's not going to get sexy. But there is an evolution. We've seen it. It's just that nobody's talking about it. And the ones that are doing it are driving the Benzes, driving the Ferraris, and they're keeping it to themselves.
Well, and what you're saying, like what you guys said to rebrand, like maybe calling it plumber or electrician is the problem. There was something I read or something it's the concept is called job crafting. And they renamed certain positions in a hospital that traditionally people wouldn't want to be called that. So like a janitor is called a hospital healer, right? Or like the person who changes out the bedpans, they changed their name as well. So maybe it's a start from there. And you do feel this camaraderie amongst the people that are in that community, because people do strive for community in everything they do. And so influencer route seems interesting too, but I think there's something here. Like we will have this issue in society where we see a shortage of these really important roles, and it's going to cause prices to surge. And so I mean it's really interesting. So let's carry on. So Jeff Bezos famously said that every company fails. His job as a CEO of Amazon at the time was to delay that inevitable. And he said that's his biggest driver for growing horizontally and vertically. So interestingly enough, I think Amazon, the shopping platform, is going to fall. And not necessarily fall. I think it's going to become equivalent to the way we see Overstock.com now, or I guess Bed Bath & Beyond, right? It's going to become this thing unless they evolve or do something different. Because we see the rise of TikTok Shop, Temu, and Shein, like all these things are just, it's driving prices down, coming directly from manufacturer to American households. I would love to hear from you guys on which Goliath you think will fall next.
I'll tell you, in my opinion, it's Tesla. I think, I'm a big Elon Musk fan. I'm a Tesla fan, but you've seen that market get segregated so much, saturated so badly that they're all over the streets. And the problem now is that you're seeing EV markets crash, right? You're seeing these prices just go, you can get a Tesla right now for 2% interest rate, which you can't even get an interest rate anywhere else, not even close, right? The car that was $100,000 is now $60,000, and it's not because the car is getting costed cheaper, right? It's a tax credit stuff. It's just that he has to keep up with the market, and his stock just keeps getting shot. And I think eventually that Tesla's going to have to and again, he said that he wanted competition, and you're seeing the competition, but you're also seeing that all these other car makers are now building hybrids or building a dual idea and saying, hey, look, we're going to go build a hybrid car, or we're going to build an EV option to my current fleet. But the fact of the matter is Tesla only has electric cars, right? It doesn't have a hybrid model. It doesn't have this future of becoming a hybrid. And I think it's going to hurt itself very, very bad because A, it's already saturated the market, and all the contracts are done, and all the tax credits are gone, and all the government spending around EV chips are coming to fall. So I think you're going to see the inevitable downfall of Tesla, and I think it'll be interesting to see what Elon does with it, right? Like saying, hey, look, yeah, he's building the robots and he's going to do that stuff, but does that spin off to something else? Does he sell off Tesla? Does he just let it burn and die because he's got an ego problem? There's so many options that could happen here.
Yeah, it almost feels like Tesla's entire business was just being a first mover advantage. That's not a business. That's all they have been. And now they're facing the consequence. I think that's a really good one. I think Netflix is going to fail. Yeah, they're still in a really strong position in the streaming world. There's several different factors that could potentially lead to that downfall. Of course, intense competition, right? Streaming is now extremely crowded, but heavily by deep-pocketed competitors, right? Disney with Hulu, Warner Brothers is HBO Max, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, NBC Peacock. Winning the streaming industry is 95% has to do with content and 5% to do with user experience of the platform. So winning with streaming is a massive money pit of just constant investment into original content or exclusive franchises. Netflix is spending $17 billion every year on content, and content costs are rising really rapidly because of the competition. And that made Netflix take about $14 billion in long-term debt to fund that content investment. The market is now saturated. Finding new subscribers is extremely difficult. They're just switching now between them, or they have multiple. But getting new subscribers is really difficult to do. And as for my main reason, what do most Netflix competitors have in common? They are built as media companies. They were built with advertising as the key revenue driver. Netflix has now gotten into advertising with their free model, but when we think about a space where your lead in the industry is almost entirely on the basis of how much money you spend, in this case, content, Netflix can't win against these guys. Disney, Warner Brothers, NBC Universal, it's too damn difficult to just constantly burn cash all to get content that, largely speaking, a lot of people are not really happy with. So where does Netflix go from here? And I think at some point, a lot of these powerhouse media companies who have much more diverse revenue streams, who are much more valuable and have access to capital to be able to go and outfund Netflix if they wanted to, they're going to drive Netflix into the ground. It doesn't matter how big of a lead Netflix has in the stream as well. So until something changes in their business model, I don't see Netflix survive.
Netflix is a really interesting one because they're just like in the entertainment space. And so that would, I guess in a sense, like Tesla too, maybe that's what's unifying about those two, is that they're just in one vertical, right? Like they haven't, well, you know what? I take that back. So what we don't talk about for Tesla, and people often just think cars, but the energy, like now they're going into solar and they're doing all these other things that are just about energy and alternative energy. I think there may have to be some shifts to keep Tesla as a company afloat. Now, Tesla Motors, like the cars and stuff, have lost, it is very well known, have lost their luster. And it's simply because it's oversaturated and there's no price security. Like people are, cars are your second most expensive purchase. And then you're told that you buy it and then the next day Elon decides to drop it $20,000 just because he has to hit a certain number to get his bonus, right? Like, I mean, those are insane changes. And for him, it's not a big deal. For a household, your negative equity is just like, I mean, that could completely sink you, right? And then you have the Netflix side. Yeah, they do spend a lot on their own IP and stuff, but what are they doing beyond that? I mean, it's crazy to me to think that they depend on AWS to keep their business afloat, you know, and that's like just an insane idea to me. But we've had quite a lot of fun today talking about all sorts of things. Before we sign off, I want to hear from you guys on either any shout outs from listeners. You want to call out any listeners or their businesses? And if you have any brands to watch. Samir, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go with my brand to watch. This was really interesting. So it's called Water Drop. Water Drop. It is a beverage company based in Austria and has developed a unique line of micro drinks. These are small dissolvable cubes and that has flavor that you just drop into a glass of water, and it provides kind of nutrients and flavor. Obviously a sustainability focus, right? It eliminates 98% of the packaging waste associated with traditional beverages. They're made from natural fruit and plant extracts. They contain no calories, so it's a health conscious product. It's hella convenient for consumers who want to hydrate on the go and don't want to store cases or bottles in their fridge or pantry. Really impressive growth. I call them a small brand, but they are reaching $100 million in revenue in just 5 years. And they have expanded to 12 countries. And they just got some Series B funding to expand even broader, specifically in the US. So Water Drop, you guys heard it here first, and you guys are going to see it soon.
Celine?
I'm going blank, Ben. I just went total blank. Sorry, guys. Shout out to all our listeners, though. We've been seeing a lot of growth and a lot of comments in the in our general space. So definitely thank you all guys for the support. I've seen a lot of likes, a lot of shares lately, so I appreciate that. But unfortunately, I did not cut this segment.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and do a brand to watch and shout out to listeners. Shout out to the owner of Canify, Shanil Wazarelli. He is changing the game in when it comes to anything that smoke shops and these alternative retailers need to carry. It's an amazing concept. Imagine neighborhood goods meeting a Costco, right? And they've done this really cool concept of bringing up artisan brands. Canify, Cannify. Check it out. Really cool concept. My brand to watch, though, interestingly, is in the fashion space. So you guys remember Sarah Blakely, right? The founder of Spanx. Yeah. She started Spanx has obviously changed the game when it came to dealing with women's insecurities of and creating better shapewear, right? So she's at it again after selling Spanx for over $1 billion, and she's created a shoe line called Sneaks. SNEEX. Same play on the X, just like Spanx has, but she wanted to solve the problem of how to make stilettos or heels more comfortable. So her line was she wanted stilettos to feel like sneakers, and truly she's done that. So imagine a sneaker with bright colors, with a stiletto heel poking out the back. And what's really unique about this is that she did not go the shy route of muted colors and things like that. She's definitely has the bold colors of like a running shoe or of a sneaker. So I think this may not be as big as Spanx, but I think they will make a pretty big trend wave. And from there, they'll get into more of the traditional colors that will invite others to try the line out. But in a world where everyone wants to look different and more interesting, I think Sneaks will be a good product for that. With that being said, let's sign off. If you guys do want a shout out, please DM us or post on your stories that you're listening to the pod. You can do a shot of you listening to it in the car or whatever. Tag us whenever you do listen to it. We'll reshare it. And we'd love to shout out your business because we love the idea of disruption and small businesses and making their way up. So stay fabulous, guys. Thank you.
Ciao.
See ya.
Men go mad.
He's gone mad.
Mad Men.
You're bad.
The man's mad.
Mad Men.
I'm mad.